commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. Okay, so this one Continental Army is the one with the 13 colonies that has not to be confused with the Continental Army with the 21 nation. And George Bayesu, I've just shown you, was a Spanish general, or we know what is called Spanish in the Ottoman army. Okay, when they say Spanish, in reality, they're talking about the Ottoman Empire. Okay, as you know, the Ottoman Empire was composed of 5 to 6 nations, but we're gonna be going through the Ottoman Empire later. Okay, so let's get started. Let's get further. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I would ask you to pay attention to the details that we're gonna go through by reading, because we're gonna be needing those details to determine to get the truth out of it. Okay, so let's get to the details. Okay, so this paragraph is called the final years. Okay, so you can find this information very easily on, if you tap George Bayesu upon Google, you will come across this information. It's not a hidden information. Okay, this information is available to everyone. It's very easy to get access to. So if we read this paragraph, as we can read, George Bayesu lived in Salcedo House in St. Augustine. So for people who doesn't know where St. Augustine is in Florida, he bought a plantation. Okay, this is the coconut, the fake story, but even with the fake story, you can get the truth out of it. Okay, let's see. He bought a plantation, right? And then they say farmed by slaves of his own. So he has a farm. Okay, Bayesu continued to serve Spain in his final years, defending Florida against attacks on the Seminole Indians. So we know that from the last presentation that it was attacking Seminole Indians. And we know Seminole Indians, it means that it was attacking indigenous. He had achieved 10 years of freedom before he died at age 60 on 40th July 1801 during Drunk Brawl. He was honored with a Catholic Mass and was buried at the Tolomato Cemetery. The exact location of his grave site is unknown. So they don't know where his grave site is. No wonder. So people who are in the commentaries, can you tell me why they do not know where his grave site is? Please, in the commentary section, please. Can you
everybody in the comments section truthfully is asking, why would you think that his grave site is unknown? What might you guess that we're now hearing that the grave site is unknown? Moun ki nan commentaire yo di kon sa kote monsieur te enterré yo pa konnen. Pou ki so pense sa te ka fet? Why would his grave site be unknown? Yet we have all of this information. We know where he so-called bought a plantation. There's a lot of interesting information that they share about George Bayesu, who in fact we are showing you was the actual George III, that they gave you the falsification of this pale white person. Right, so let's see. Everybody in the comments, people are starting to respond. Night Nurse 99 says it's a lie. Jacques says it's just a lie. He never existed. Barbara said he didn't exist. Haiti Indian says because they're trying to hide it. True Flight number 6 says because they lied about who he is. Madame Prophet says we will know the truth. Lukenzi says they know where the grave site, but they refuse to tell the truth, to tell us the truth. Yabai Mati, they're telling us lies. They want to hide his heritage, is what Lukenzi has said again. F2IT because he is not from there. Stevenson Gay says it's unknown, inconnu. Pierre Mapu says he never existed. Anna, West Indian lady, or they want to hide his identity. Nubranche says because he never existed. Some interesting feedback here. Jinwes says proof of DNA, not also possible. Interesting one. Jinwes dit comme ça que ADN, preuve de ADN, li pas possible toujours. If you don't have the DNA, right, you can't prove anything. You can't go and get an old bone and start analyzing, you know, things like phenotypes and, you know, DNA research, right? Our sister Ava, she says he was invented. Philip Black, just like Jesus. Oh, I'm coughing badly today. Jacques says it is like looking for Dessalines' bone in the Grand River of the North in Haiti. Many food. Beda says unknown to us, not to them. RJ Lexus says one person playing two lives, but one death. Interesting one. I like that one, RJ Lexus. Miyu says this is a phantom. He's a phantom. Oh gosh. Joe Robbins, because he's a melanated, dark complexion. Joe Rubens, that's what he says. Melanated, dark complexion. They don't want you to know of their greatness, I assume. I mean, some interesting feedback. You got it truthfully. We got some interesting feedback by everybody in the comments.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, obviously he has, because he's a made-up character, and he was not, his graveyard is not there. But look, pay attention to this, please, because we're going to be needing this. Okay. Keep in mind that George Bayasu died in Saint Augustine. Okay. Keep in mind that George Bayasu or Biasu died in Saint Augustine. We're going to be needing that. Okay. Let's get further. Okay. Let's look at George Washington. Sorry, it's not. Yeah. Okay, it's the same. Okay, let's look at George Washington now. Okay, that's his fake pictures. So what I'm showing to you is a fake pictures. As you know, it was not this is not the real face of George Washington, who has never existed. Okay, George Washington was born on February 22, 1732, okay, and at Pope's Creek in Westmoreland County, Virginia. He was the first of 6 children of Augustine and Maribel Washington. Do you see Augustine? Bow. Many.
Wow. Many. Wow. So you see how they play on words. For those of you who may be new to the work of Learive, we use all types of known sciences to uncover the lies. And many of you may be aware of the law of karma. Obviously, at this level, when you're doing research, you know, there's all types of things and methods that people use to lie and to cover the truth. And you have to know those methods if you're going to do research to uncover those lies. So we're able to do that here, and I'm sure you'll have an opportunity to see that. So what we're noticing, the last person that they didn't know where his grave was, they know that he bought land in St. Augustine, Florida. He lived there, and he has a storyline there. He has foundation there. But yet his grave site was unknown, but they knew when he died. And many of you said, because, you know, they did this, why don't we know? It's because, you know, they want to hide it. They knew it was a lie that they were creating, so on and so forth. But now we're evaluating the false picture, this pale white person that they show you, and they told you that's who George Washington is. And we know they fabricated that story, and it was based on the person that they so-called can't find the real background on them. But now we're analyzing, because they have to tell you some truth, because we have to be in line with the law of karma. That's the universal law. So when you're reading through the lines, you're starting to see how they compile things in order to hide it from you. So we're now finding out one of the first of his 6 children, one of them was named Augustine. Many of those names are made up, by the way. So let's just be clear. But they use that in order to, to put the lies in perspective. So I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of explanation as truthfully as going through this, so you're kind of on the same page, and you can correct me if I'm wrong truthfully as you're going through this.
I'm just going to make a quick correction. Is Augustine is the name of his father. The father of George Washington is named Augustine. And
thank you. Yeah, that makes sense.
And you know that George Bayesu died in Saint Augustine. So it shows
that puts it in better perspective. Li mette nan pi bon perspective. Kounya la nan dou se sakte papal, derele Augustine. Okay. Now we're getting into the mystery of what's going on, the spiritual aspect of what's going on. Indeed.
Okay, let's get further. Okay. Let's see George II. As you know, George II is the father of George III. Okay. The claim that I'm making tonight, is that George III is none other, George Washington is none other than George III, and George Bayesu is none other than George III. So we're going to be looking at George II, who is the father of George III, who is the emperor of the, according to the fake history, is the king of the United Kingdom. In fact, he was the emperor of the British Empire. Okay, let's see. George II, name is George Augustus. Let me repeat again. The father of George III, name is George Augustus. Do you understand?
First coincidence. First, the light is starting to come on. That's right, Jeremiah. The light is starting to come on. Lumière commence à jaillir parce que George II is known as George Augustus. And we were talking about how Saint Augustine appeared in the last 2. We continue.
Okay, so George II father, the George II name is George Augustus, and George Washington father, the name of George Washington father is Augustine. Okay, so we've got quite coincidences. Okay, let's get further. Okay, let's sum up the information we get so far. George Bayesu lived and died in Saint Augustine. The name of the father of George Washington was Augustine. The name of George III father's was George Augustus. Okay, you see, those people are lazy, bro. Okay, let's get further.
That's the mistake. So the error, these people are just copying and pasting storylines, right? So they get comfortable, like truthfully just said, they're lazy. No one is really thinking. They're just going to copy and paste, the history or the storyline, and then they're going to give it to you. And this is how we're catching them today. Welcome to the age of Aquarius. So we're going to do a calculation of vibration. That's what you're looking at. In French, we call it calcul vibratoire. Parce que moun sa yo même on seul bagay que yo marché fait c'est copier-coller. Et puis là regardez, nous avons un dénominateur commun qui sorti à travers de Augustine qui est en place, qui est en papa, et puis qui c'était papa, yon nan malfecté yo. Mais kounya là nous pas calculer, faire calcul vibratoire là. So the vibration calculator is what we're going to do right now. This is a science, this is gematria, and many of you who are not aware, you can study it, and you can realize that things, people, everything has a frequency. And to protect yourself from the law of karma, people have to make sure that the frequency is aligned with the lie or the falsification that they're creating in order to be preserved from karma, so karma does not get to them. So they're lying to you about a real story, but they're using all of this to embed the lie, and they have to use these things according to the laws of nature. So if you don't know about that, I think it's something worth looking up so you understand what you must put in play to figure out the lies that these people have told us in the story of our time. So this is what we have on the screen right now is the vibration calculator between the two names, and then we're going to prove that those two names, they have the same frequency, which is how they can get away with it according to the law of nature. So truthfully, your time.
Okay, let's see. So when we're looking at George Washington, it gives you 187, as you can see here. 187 is 16. 16 is 1 plus 6 equals 7. Okay, when you're looking at George III, whose real name is George William Frederick, it gives you 215. Okay, 215 is 2 plus 1 plus 5 equals 8, right? Okay, when you're looking at George Bayesu, okay, it gives you 143. When we do the calculations on 143, it gives you 1 plus 4 plus 3 gives you 8. So as we know, George III is equal George Bayesu, but it does not equal George Washington. But let's ask some questions, because I've found the answer. I got the answer. I'm gonna ask to you people in the comment where Washington name is from, please. Moun ki nan commentaire yo, est-ce ou ka di mwen kote non Washington nan sorti? Where is the name?
People in the chat, the name Washington. What is the source of the name Washington? Where does it come from? If anybody in the chat can share what they know about the name Washington, where does it come from if you know?